In the heart of a vast, gleaming space station, alien leaders from across the galaxy gathered for their grand council meeting. The council chamber was a sight to behold, filled with shimmering walls and floating platforms. Leaders from various alien races, each one more exotic than the last, chattered among themselves, their voices echoing through the chamber. Today's agenda was simple: review recent conquests and discuss future plans. At the center of the chamber, a large holographic display projected the latest intelligence reports. One report in particular caught the attention of the council. It showed a small human army stationed on a remote, desolate planet. The planet seemed insignificant, a mere speck in the grand scheme of the galaxy. The head of the council, a towering figure with 6 eyes and a menacing snarl, tapped a control panel, enlarging the image of the human army. The army was tiny, barely visible on the display. It consisted of a few outdated tanks, a handful of soldiers, and some makeshift defenses. The image prompted a chorus of laughter among the council members. "This is what humanity calls an army?" One of the leaders, a sleek, serpentine being with scales that shimmered like precious gems, hissed with amusement. Another leader, a hulking brute with a dozen arms, chuckled deeply. "They think they can challenge us with this tiny force? How amusing!" The council members continued to mock the human army, their laughter growing louder. They exchanged stories of their own victories over larger and more advanced enemies. They couldn't believe that such a small force could pose any real threat. The head of the council raised a clawed hand, demanding silence. "We should dispatch a small battalion to deal with them. It will be an easy task." A sly smile curled across his face. "Let us send them a message. Show them their place in the galaxy." The council agreed with enthusiasm, their confidence unshakable. They were certain that the human army's lack of advanced technology and sheer size made them nothing more than a nuisance. The alien leaders began making plans to send a fleet of their most advanced warships to the planet, eager to demonstrate their superiority. Meanwhile, on the remote planet, the human army was oblivious to the ridicule being directed at them. Their commander, a seasoned veteran named Colonel Mark Thompson, had received reports of strange alien activity in the system. Though the humans were aware of the alien presence, they were determined to defend their position. Colonel Thompson and his troops had spent months preparing for potential threats, setting up defenses and honing their combat skills. As the alien fleet approached, the soldiers continued their routine, unaware of the impending battle. They believed that if a conflict did arise, they would face it with courage and determination. Little did they know that their foes were not just underestimating them, but were actively mocking them. Back in the council chamber, the alien leaders were in high spirits. They were eager to demonstrate their power and teach humanity a lesson. The mocking comments about the human army continued, and the council members were already planning their victory celebrations. The alien leaders were so engrossed in their own arrogance that they failed to consider one crucial factor: humanity's unexpected resilience. Their laughter and scorn would soon turn into shock and disbelief as the true nature of their adversaries became clear. As the meeting concluded, the alien leaders prepared for their journey to the distant planet. They were confident that the humans would be no match for their superior technology and military might. The galaxy would soon see how easily the so-called tiny human army was defeated. Their victory seemed assured, and the alien leaders were ready to add another triumph to their long list of conquests. Little did they know, the real battle was just beginning, and their mockery would soon come back to haunt them. The alien fleet descended on the remote planet with a thunderous roar. Massive warships, bristling with advanced weaponry, surrounded the small, dusty world. The once quiet surface of the planet now hummed with the energy of the approaching invaders. The aliens were brimming with confidence, their superior technology and numbers making them certain of an easy victory. As the alien forces prepared to land, the human soldiers on the planet's surface were going about their daily routines. Colonel Mark Thompson, the leader of the human army, was in his command center, studying the latest updates on a flickering monitor. He had received word that an unknown fleet was approaching, but the specifics were still unclear. Despite the uncertainty, the colonel had given orders to be ready for anything. His troops were on high alert, their weapons primed and their defenses in place. When the alien ships finally touched down, the human soldiers sprang into action. The aliens deployed their ground forces with precision, sending waves of heavily armed troops and mechanical war units. The initial reports from the front lines painted a bleak picture. The alien forces were overwhelming, and the human positions were being rapidly overrun. However, as the battle unfolded, the aliens quickly encountered an unexpected challenge. The human soldiers, though few in number and equipped with seemingly outdated gear, fought with a ferocity and determination that caught the aliens off guard. The aliens' advanced technology was met with clever and surprising tactics from the human defenders. Colonel Thompson had anticipated that the alien invaders would underestimate his troops. He had prepared traps and strategic positions designed to exploit the weaknesses of their technologically advanced enemies. As the aliens advanced, they found themselves stumbling into ambushes and encountering hidden defenses that they had not expected. One alien squadron, confident in their superior firepower, advanced aggressively. They were met with a barrage of makeshift anti-armor weapons and improvised explosive devices. The explosions and chaos created a sudden shift in the battle, as the aliens realized that their advanced equipment was not as invincible as they had believed. In the midst of the skirmish, a young human soldier named Private Sarah Lee displayed exceptional bravery. She led a small team to flank the alien forces, using guerrilla tactics to harass and disrupt their operations. Her team's success in sabotaging key alien machinery began to turn the tide of the battle. The aliens were forced to reevaluate their strategy, their confidence beginning to waver. The alien commanders, who had initially been dismissive of the human army, were now faced with a troubling reality. Their reports came in with shocking news. The humans were not retreating or crumbling as expected. Instead, they were fighting back with an intensity that was both surprising and unsettling. The alien leaders, who had planned to crush the humans quickly and move on, found themselves bogged down in a drawn-out and increasingly costly battle. Back in the command center, Colonel Thompson and his staff monitored the situation with a mix of concern and determination. They had anticipated that the fight would be difficult, but the scale of the alien response had exceeded their expectations. Nevertheless, the colonel was resolute. He knew that the key to victory lay in maintaining their morale and exploiting the weaknesses of the alien forces. As the hours passed, the battle raged on, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The aliens, once so confident in their superiority, were now struggling to maintain their advance. The human defenders, though outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a courage and resilience that defied the alien leaders' expectations. The unexpected resistance from the human army had turned the battle into a grueling and unpredictable fight. The aliens, who had initially mocked the tiny human force, were now facing a challenge that they had not anticipated. The clash of their advanced technology against human ingenuity and determination created a volatile and shifting battlefield. As night fell over the planet, the aliens began to realize that their easy victory was slipping away. The human army had proven to be far more formidable than they had ever imagined. The battle was far from over, and the outcome remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: the mockery that had greeted the human army was giving way to a grudging respect as the aliens faced an unexpected and formidable adversary. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the alien forces were already on high alert. The previous night's clashes had not gone as smoothly as they had expected. The once confident alien commanders were now facing a surprising and stubborn enemy. The human soldiers, despite their small numbers, had fought with a determination that left the aliens both puzzled and worried. Colonel Mark Thompson, who had overseen the previous night's skirmishes, knew that their position was precarious. The aliens had brought advanced weaponry and overwhelming numbers, but the humans had managed to hold their ground with cunning and resilience. The colonel gathered his officers for a strategy meeting, determined to capitalize on their unexpected success. "We've done well so far," Colonel Thompson said, his voice steady and confident. "But we can't let up now. The aliens are adjusting their tactics. We need to stay one step ahead." His officers nodded in agreement. They had observed the aliens' increasing frustration and noted a pattern in their behavior. The aliens were trying to adapt, but they were still struggling to understand the full extent of the human army's capabilities. The battle resumed with the rising sun, and the aliens, still reeling from their previous setbacks, began to implement new strategies. They deployed more specialized units and tried to overwhelm the human defenses with a renewed assault. But as the aliens advanced, they encountered even more surprises. One of the most unexpected tactics employed by the humans was the use of makeshift EMP devices. These devices, built from scavenged parts and basic technology, emitted powerful electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disabled alien electronic equipment. The aliens' advanced weapons and surveillance systems faltered, creating confusion and vulnerability in their ranks. Meanwhile, Private Sarah Lee and her squad continued their guerrilla campaign, harassing the alien forces from hidden positions. They used the terrain to their advantage, launching surprise attacks and then disappearing into the cover of the landscape. Their hit-and-run tactics were causing significant disruptions to the alien advance. One of the alien commanders, a sharp-eyed strategist with a sleek cybernetic body, watched in frustration as his forces struggled. His name was Commander Vrax, and he had been sent to ensure a quick victory. Vrax was known for his tactical brilliance, but even he was being challenged by the humans' unconventional methods. "Why are they fighting so hard?" Vrax growled, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We underestimated them, and now they're making us pay for it." The aliens began to regroup and adapt, but every adjustment they made seemed to be met with another clever countermeasure from the humans. The battle was becoming increasingly chaotic, and the aliens were finding it difficult to regain their momentum. In the command center, Colonel Thompson reviewed the latest reports with a sense of cautious optimism. The human soldiers were holding their own, and their tactics were proving effective. He could see the aliens' once confident demeanor starting to crack. "The aliens are not used to this kind of fight," Colonel Thompson said to his officers. "They rely on their technology and numbers. We've shown them that we can exploit their weaknesses. Let's keep pressing." As the day wore on, the aliens' confidence continued to wane. The human army, with its ingenuity and sheer determination, had turned the battle into a grueling contest. The aliens, who had initially viewed the human forces as a minor inconvenience, were now struggling to understand how such a small and seemingly outdated army could be such a formidable opponent. Commander Vrax, who had initially been dismissive of the humans, found himself increasingly frustrated. He had not anticipated the depth of human resilience and resourcefulness. The battle was not just a clash of armies, but a test of wills, and the humans were proving to be a surprisingly tough adversary. As evening approached, the aliens were left to ponder the nature of their enemy. The once routine conquest had turned into a fierce and unpredictable struggle. The human surprise was no longer a mere irritation. It had become a serious challenge to the aliens' plans. The galaxy was watching, and the aliens had to confront the uncomfortable truth. The tiny human army was far more capable and dangerous than they had ever imagined. As the battle raged on, the alien forces began to feel the strain. The relentless resistance from the human soldiers had turned what was supposed to be a straightforward victory into a brutal and drawn-out conflict. The alien commanders, once confident and dismissive, were now grappling with the unexpected tenacity of their small adversaries. Commander Vrax, who had been overseeing the ground assault, paced anxiously in his command vehicle. The screens before him displayed images of fierce combat, with human forces launching surprise attacks and pushing back against the alien advance. His frustration was evident as he slammed a fist on the console. "These humans are relentless," Vrax growled. "We need to break their spirit before they completely turn the tide." Vrax ordered a full-scale assault, deploying additional troops and heavy weaponry to overwhelm the human defenses. The alien fleet above also intensified its bombardment, aiming to crush the human positions with sheer firepower. The skies lit up with explosions as the aliens unleashed their full might on the beleaguered human forces. But even as the alien forces pressed harder, the human soldiers remained resolute. Colonel Mark Thompson and his team had been preparing for this moment, knowing that the aliens' tactics would escalate as the battle continued. They had set up hidden bunkers, reinforced their defenses, and developed a series of counterattacks designed to exploit the aliens' overconfidence. One critical moment came when the aliens launched a massive assault on a key human stronghold. The alien troops advanced in overwhelming numbers, and it seemed as though the human position might finally be breached. But Colonel Thompson had anticipated this move. He had secretly reinforced the stronghold with additional troops and equipment, ready for a decisive counterstrike. As the aliens charged forward, they were met with a surprise. The human soldiers, who had been holding their ground with grit and determination, suddenly launched a powerful counteroffensive. Hidden turrets, set up in concealed positions, fired upon the advancing alien forces, while human troops emerged from the bunkers to engage in close-quarters combat. The alien advance faltered as the humans unleashed their well-planned trap. The alien soldiers, caught off guard and surrounded, struggled to adapt to the sudden shift in the battle. The humans, who had been on the defensive, now took the initiative, pushing the aliens back and reclaiming lost ground. Commander Vrax watched in disbelief as the situation on the battlefield shifted. His once immovable forces were now being pushed back by the very enemy they had mocked. The realization that the humans had been preparing for this moment was dawning on him. The tide of the battle was turning, and the aliens were beginning to lose their edge. The human counterattack was not just about gaining ground, but also about morale. The sight of their troops fighting fiercely and pushing the aliens back inspired the human soldiers. Their spirits, which had been tested by the prolonged conflict, were now buoyed by the success of their counteroffensive. The human army, once seen as an underdog, was now showing its strength and capability. As night fell, the battlefield was a scene of chaos and shifting tides. The alien forces, who had been so sure of their victory, were now facing a serious challenge. Their once confident commanders were scrambling to regroup and rethink their strategies. The human forces, emboldened by their recent success, continued to press the attack, determined to turn the tide in their favor. Colonel Thompson, watching the battle unfold, felt a surge of hope. The human army had faced overwhelming odds and had managed to turn the situation around. The battle was far from over, but the turning point had arrived. The aliens were no longer the unstoppable force they had once seemed. The humans had shown that they were not to be underestimated, and the conflict had become a true test of endurance and resolve. As the alien forces began to retreat and regroup, the humans celebrated their hard-fought gains. The tide of the battle had shifted, and the once mocked human army was now proving itself to be a formidable and resilient opponent. The galaxy was watching, and the aliens were left to confront the reality that their initial mockery had been a grave mistake. The once proud alien fleet, which had arrived with such confidence, was now struggling to maintain its footing. The battle had dragged on for days, and the tide had turned against them. The alien forces, who had underestimated their small human adversaries, were now facing the consequences of their overconfidence. Commander Vrax paced nervously in his command center. His once unshakable demeanor was now marked by worry and frustration. The screens before him showed the chaotic battlefield, with human forces pushing forward and alien troops retreating. The humans had proven to be more than a mere annoyance. They had become a serious threat. "Reports from the front lines are grim," Vrax said, his voice strained. "Our troops are losing ground, and our supplies are running low. We need to rethink our strategy or we'll be overrun." The alien commanders, who had initially dismissed the human army as insignificant, were now grappling with the reality of their situation. Their forces were stretched thin, and the human soldiers, driven by their unexpected success, were pressing their advantage. In the midst of the chaos, Colonel Mark Thompson and his team were making the most of the situation. They had seized the opportunity to launch a final offensive, determined to drive the aliens away and secure their victory. The human forces, invigorated by their recent successes, fought with renewed energy and determination. As the human troops advanced, they encountered pockets of alien resistance. The aliens, despite their advanced technology, were now fighting a desperate battle. Their once superior equipment was no match for the human soldiers' grit and tenacity. The humans had turned their own traps and tactics against them, and the alien forces were finding it difficult to regroup. In a last-ditch effort, the alien leaders tried to rally their troops. They called for a coordinated counterattack, hoping to push back the human forces and regain control. But the aliens' attempts to reorganize were met with stiff resistance. The human soldiers, who had fought so hard to turn the tide, were not about to let their victory slip away. As the battle reached its climax, the alien fleet began to withdraw. The once formidable ships, now battered and damaged, retreated from the planet's surface. The human forces, having driven their enemies back, watched as the alien ships ascended into the sky, leaving behind a battlefield scarred by conflict. Commander Vrax, witnessing the retreat of his forces, realized that their defeat was inevitable. The alien commanders, who had been so confident in their victory, were now forced to confront the harsh reality of their defeat. The humans had not only defended their position, but had also shown that they were capable of standing up to the might of the galaxy's most advanced forces. In the aftermath of the battle, the humans celebrated their hard-earned victory. The once mocked army had proven its worth, and the alien leaders were left to reflect on the consequences of their arrogance. The human soldiers, who had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, were hailed as heroes. Colonel Thompson stood among his troops, pride and relief evident in his expression. The battle had been hard fought, and the costs had been high, but the outcome was a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. The alien forces had underestimated them, and the humans had shown that they were more than capable of defending their home. The defeat of the alien fleet was a significant blow to their ambitions. The once confident invaders had been humbled by the determination of a small, seemingly insignificant army. The humans had turned the tables on their enemies and had secured a victory that would be remembered for years to come. As the alien ships disappeared into the distance, the humans looked toward the future with a sense of triumph and hope. They had faced a formidable challenge and had emerged victorious. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of the human spirit, and the aliens had learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate the resolve of those who are willing to fight for their home.